Many times being like this has been good, and sometimes bad, but the worst by far has been what happened in, as I decided to call it, the Lego place. Giving a bit more context, back then I had been exploring abandoned houses with my friends for months. They did it for fun, but I did it out of curiosity. I loved looking at the rooms and thinking about what had happened in there, but I never thought I would actually find anything.
Promise you'll send me pics.
Several days ago, we had agreed to go to a house on the outskirts of the city, but my friend had refused just that day, even though she wanted to come.
Sure. I'll go next time. I know. See you later.
I soon hung up the phone and wrote a message to Peter, the friend who was going to accompany me. We usually planned to go to places after his work, so he was always a little late, but never as much as on this occasion. I received his answer soon. It was an audio. I had a problem here. I don't think I can make it, Claire. Okay, I replied. Were you already there? He asked me seconds later. Yeah, I sent him. I knew I should go, but there was something about that house that made me want to go inside, so I decided to. I'll take a look, I told my friend. Without waiting any longer, I put my cell phone away and started walking towards the house. The tall, uncut grass and growing vines told me that it had been abandoned for a long time, but it didn't look deteriorated at all. The roof was complete and the entrances closed. In fact, I had to force a door, which I had learned to do long ago. It took several minutes, but I finally made it. It wasn't very big, but it had 2 floors and several rooms, each one emptier than the last. There was even the typical graffiti that you would see in any other abandoned house.
How boring.
As usual, I marked each of the rooms I had already seen with a yellow color. The last one was the only bedroom on the first floor. It had a giant window with which I could see everything that was in the front of the house. Claire! That's how I managed to notice that my friend had arrived even before hearing him.
I'm here.
I waved at him from where I was standing before going to the front door. He looked at me a little annoyed. I was worried. You shouldn't have gone in alone.
I'm fine, okay? There's nothing interesting anyway. It's almost as good as new.
Really? Peter glanced around the house. Let's explore together. I might notice different things than you.
Fine, but not worth it.
Together, we toured the second floor first. Peter would open a door, survey the room, and then close it. He soon saw the last one in the area and said, "Everything is perfect."
You mean it's perfectly boring?
I mean, like new. It didn't take long for him to close the door, but this time he stared at the mark that I had made. Then he touched it and looked at his hand to see if it was dirty.
It's dry at this point.
But as if Peter hadn't heard me, he continued to examine his hand. Why did you mark it?
Why did I mark it if it looks like new? Makes no sense. I just wanted it to have something different.
I think you shouldn't have done it.
It doesn't matter anymore, does it? Let's go.
Just as we went downstairs, Peter and I saw the door to the only bedroom on that floor. Looks like you didn't check that one.
I didn't mark it, but I've already been there. It's the room I was in when you arrived.
My friend tried turning the door handle over and over again, but it seemed to be locked, which left me speechless. With a lump in my throat, I watched Peter force it.
There's no point in opening it again.
Are you sure you did it? I fell silent once again. All of a sudden, the place was starting to get very cold.
Why did you insist so much? This place is nothing.
Just let me see. What had that been? The wind was blowing at my ear, but there were no windows open. The sounds the door was making as Peter forced it was also driving me crazy.
Stop. Let's go.
Give me a second, Claire. I had goosebumps, although I didn't know if it was from the cold or something else.
Let's go, Peter.
He finally made it. Done, see? Now just in front of us was the same room as before, but this time it was full of colors. On the floor, there were only hundreds and hundreds of Legos.
What the hell?
I took a few steps forward and bent down to touch them.
They're real. Pete.
Suddenly, I felt something push me, causing me to lose my balance and fall on top of the Legos. I heard something behind me. The door had closed.
Peter?
I tried to get up, but there were so many Legos that I just fell back down. The weight of my body on those small objects was causing them to dig into my skin.
Open the door, Peter. This isn't funny.
I can't, it's locked again. My knees were burning more and more. It was unbearable, so I leaned on my hands for a moment.
Do something.
The tips of the Legos pierced the flesh of my palms as I heard Peter bang on the door. At some point it opened, so I quickly crept out into the hallway. I ran to the front door, but then it hit me. My friend was nowhere to be found.
Peter? Peter!
Suddenly, some knocks on the door next to me began to be heard. Claire! I hurried to open the door. As expected, there he was. Ah! Somehow, the Legos were digging into his skin with amazing speed, like it was just water. Ah! On his face, on his hands, on his legs, they were all over his body. I didn't know what to do. I was in shock. Suddenly, the door closed. There was a pale, thin boy with a trail of dried blood tears on his face next to me, but I couldn't even scream. Did you understand? Don't ever do that to my house again. In the blink of an eye, he was gone. It was at that moment that I left the place. I ran to my motorcycle, but my legs gave out and I fell on the ground. Claire! Oh my God! My friend was there, next to me, looking at my wounds. There were still a lot of Legos stuck in my skin.
How did you get out?
What are you talking about? I just got here. I called you 1,000,000 times. From that day on, I stopped exploring abandoned houses, as I didn't want to be tortured by some other spirit. I've tried to forget about the incident, but every time I see Legos, my wounds start to ache and make me want to throw up.